In 1704, a Scottish sailor chose to be left alone on a deserted island in the Pacific Ocean. His name was Alexander Selkirk, not a fictional hero, but a real man of courage and pride. He served on a privateer ship, a legal pirate authorized by the British Crown. Privateers weren't criminals, they were wartime sailors with royal permission to raid enemies. Selkirk joined the Cinque Ports, a worn-out vessel bound for the South Pacific. The ship was rotting, planks cracked, masts weak, and rats scurried below deck. Its captain, Thomas Stradling, was young, arrogant, and dangerously inexperienced. Selkirk, a seasoned navigator, warned him, "This ship won't survive the voyage." Their arguments grew louder until Selkirk shouted, "Leave me on the next island." The crew laughed, but the captain agreed and dropped him on Juan Fernández. He wasn't punished. He chose this to escape a sinking ship and a foolish captain. He landed with a musket, a knife, a Bible, some clothes, and a little food. No tent, no fire starter, no fresh water source in sight. The island was beautiful, but utterly alone. No human had lived here for years. At first he panicked. Then he remembered, survival begins with calm. Day 1, find water. He followed birds inland. They led him to a clear stream. Day 2, build shelter. He used branches, leaves, and vines to make a crude hut. Day 3, make fire. After hours of friction, a tiny spark became a saving flame. He read the Bible daily, not just for faith, but to keep his mind from slipping. Weeks passed. The ship never returned. He realized he might die here. But Selkirk refused to give up. He was a sailor, and sailors survive. His first real threat? Hunger. The island had no crops, only wild plants and animals. He found wild turnips and cabbage, bitter but edible. Then came the goats, hundreds of them, left by earlier sailors. Hunting them was hard. They were fast, and his musket was limited to 2 shots. He learned to track them silently, like a predator, not a sailor. He learned to track them silently, like a predator, not a sailor. He tanned the hides to make clothes. His wool coat had long since rotted. Fire became his lifeline for warmth, cooking, and scaring off wild dogs. Yes, wild dogs roamed the island. They howled at night, circling his hut. He built a second shelter on a tall cliff, safer with a view of the whole island. Days turned into months. He marked time by carving notches into a tree. At night, he talked to himself, just to hear a human voice. Sometimes he shouted his own name, just to remember who he was. He feared forgetting English, so he read the Bible aloud every single day. Rainy season came weeks of endless storms, flooding his shelters. He dug trenches to divert water, another lesson from his sailor's mind. He even built a crude table and chair, because dignity matters, even in exile. 4 seasons passed, no sails, no rescue, just ocean and silence. Yet he adapted. Nature became his teacher, and solitude his strange companion. By his second year, Selkirk had mastered the island, but the island hadn't broken him. He built better tools, fishhooks from goat bones, knives from flint, bowls from wood. Fishing became a daily ritual, using vines as lines, rocks as weights. He learned which tides brought fish close and when to stay ashore during storms. His diet improved, fish goat meat, berries, and even wild figs. He even made cheese-drying goat milk in the sun, pressing it into soft rounds. But illness struck once, fever, chills, and days of delirium in his hut. He drank boiled herb tea and prayed, and somehow he survived. He realized survival wasn't just about food or fire, it was about hope. He realized survival wasn't just about food or fire, it was about hope. His voice grew rough from disuse, but singing kept him human. He tamed some goats, not for food, but for company. One goat even followed him everywhere, his silent companion in exile. He explored every ridge, cave, and beach, mapping the island in his mind. In one cave, he found old footprints, proof he wasn't the first castaway. He felt less alone, but also more aware of how fragile life was. He kept his musket clean, his fire ready, always prepared for rescue or danger. Pirates sometimes hid in these waters, and they didn't take prisoners. So he stayed hidden when strange sails appeared, watching, waiting, praying. Years passed. His beard grew long, his skin turned leathery, but his mind stayed sharp. By year 3, Selkirk no longer counted days, he lived by sunrises and seasons. His greatest enemy wasn't hunger or beasts. It was the silence inside his own mind. He talked to trees, to goats, even to the wind, just to hear a response. Sometimes he imagined his mother calling his name and turned around, hoping. He carved letters into wood, his name, his hometown, his prayers. Writing kept him sane, proof he still belonged to the world of men. He built a chapel of stones, not grand, but sacred to him. Every Sunday he walked there barefoot, as if entering a cathedral. He missed voices, laughter, arguments, even ship bells. But he never gave in to despair. "God has not forgotten me," he wrote in his journal. He trained his body running on cliffs, climbing trees, swimming in cold seas. Strength became his ritual, a way to say, "I am still alive." He even danced once alone on the beach under a full moon. It wasn't madness, it was joy, a moment of freedom in endless solitude. He dreamed of rescue, but feared it too. Could he return to a world he'd left behind? He wondered, had England forgotten him, or had he forgotten England? His clothes were gone, replaced by stitched goat hides and woven grass. Strangers would call him a savage, but he knew he was more human than ever. He accepted his fate, not as punishment, but as a test of the soul. And then, after 4 years and 4 months, a sail appeared on the horizon. His heart pounded. Was it rescue or pirates? He hid, watching closely. The ship flew the British flag, and he recognized its name, the Duke. On board was William Dampier, the famous explorer who once commanded Selkirk's old ship. Selkirk ran down the beach, waving, screaming, but no sound came out at first. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. "I am Alexander Selkirk, of Largo, Scotland." The crew stared in shock. They thought they'd found a ghost or a wild man. But Dampier remembered him. "You're the one who left the Cinque Ports." They gave him clothes, bread, and wine, but he barely recognized the taste of bread. He tried to walk in shoes, but his feet, hardened by years of stone, refused. On the ship, he couldn't sleep in a cabin. He preferred the open deck, under stars. He joined the crew as a navigator. His island survival made him sharper than ever. Years later, a writer named Daniel Defoe heard his story and changed history. Defoe turned Selkirk into Robinson Crusoe, but the real man was far more remarkable. Selkirk returned to Scotland a legend, but found no peace in fame. He couldn't settle. The sea still called him, louder than any crowd ever could. He sailed again, this time as captain, but died at sea, far from home. Yet his story lived on, not as fiction, but as proof of human resilience. He survived 1,051 days alone, with no tools, no help, and no guarantee of rescue. His legacy isn't a novel, it's the quiet courage of one man who refused to break. And somewhere on a forgotten island, the wind still whispers his name.